All right, it's a new year, and this is a new project we've been wanting to work on. I'm Dean, and this is my buddy Andrew.
Hey, how's it
And
going?
yeah, and we are Freedom Hawk Live, and we're going to start off the year talking about all of the crazy events that happened this first week, 2024. I'm going to kick it over to Andrew for this first one. This last week we had like this Epstein document dump, lots of crazy stuff going on there. And at the same time, all of a sudden, we've been seeing every time this stuff comes up in the news, we get these like weird, alien things and anomalies that make the news. So what's going on with that, Drew? Like, what you want to start us off with the Epstein thing, and then we'll talk about the Miami aliens and.
Yeah, so it's interesting. A few days ago, the Epstein list was released of who flew on his aircraft down to Little St. John, down in the Bahamas. And, there's some names on that list that are pretty important, influential people in Hollywood, in politics, in business. The list came out, 4 years ago?
There have been lists, and the crazy thing is, like anything else on the internet, there's so much information. There's a lot of bad information, but what I think is the best source is going directly to the whistleblower interviews by the FBI, where they talk about some of the people. There was the girl that came out in 2011, and again, she was interviewed in 2014 by the FBI, and that's the girl that, a lot of the left has been trying to say, well, Trump is mentioned in that document, but she specifically states in there Trump never touched her. He never got massages. He was, he went to the house in West Palm Beach to Epstein's house, but she talks about that interaction and says no, he never hurt her. And my understanding from this backstory is that she was the girl that was recruited from Mar-a-Lago, and that was part of the reason that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago was because of her. But then you have this other girl that goes by Ransom, who's come out here recently and started naming other names, and her stuff is a lot of her stuff is talking about other victims. So she was a victim, and presumably, and then there were other victims that she kept in contact with who, in confidence to her, named Prince Andrew and Bill Clinton, and most recently Richard Branson's name has come out. And but then it's hearsay, and she claims that the other girl can't talk because of an NDA that was signed and money paid to her for that NDA. I don't know if I buy it entirely.
Who would make her sign an NDA for something such as that?
So according to this young lady named Ransom, she's saying that it was the Clinton Foundation that paid her, and that Hillary Clinton sent people after her friend during the 2016 campaigns. Again, it's hearsay, but it really makes you wonder, how much is out there if there are so many victims from this whole. This whole tragedy, really. What's stopping more of them from coming forward more publicly, and are there a lot of these NDA things out there? I don't know how well these things stand up in court when it's a criminal act.
Yeah.
I don't know how well that really stands up, and I think that's something to consider. Is can they be compelled by the court to go ahead and give their testimony,
right?
Because you can't really contractually force someone to do something illegal. It's probably there may be some gray area there, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
and then at the same time, you have, as always happens with these things, you start getting all these weird things happening in the news, and it's like this happens, and all of a sudden we have earthquakes and tsunamis, and we have, which may just be coincidence, but then this Miami alien thing. Do you want to talk about that? Because why is that coming out on the day that all these documents are being dumped, and now we've had 4 document dumps from the courts. Why are we seeing that at the same time, and yet there's no photos or videos or anything?
Well, I think you and I both know that it's misdirection. It's look over here while all these other things are going on. And I think it boils down to just the public's interest in what's happening. If they can take people's attention off of the Epstein documents, that they can focus on other things going on, the earthquakes, the tsunamis, everything going on in Ukraine, everything going on over in Palestine and Israel, Gaza. If they can use all of that information to dissuade and use the media cycle to keep that going and keep that pertinent, less people will be focused on the Epstein documents. And not to mention, most liberals think that the Epstein situation is all conspiracy theory.
Well, there is that, but I mean the stuff going on in Israel and Palestine and the Gaza Strip, like that stuff's been in the news for months.
Yeah, it's been in the news cycle.
So it does beg the question: what's happening over there that we aren't hearing about now?
Right. Because
Maybe they are trying to quiet that situation down in the news. But I thought the whole thing with the Miami Mall, you have dozens and dozens of police cars there.
They said in some news reports over 100.
Yeah, so you have all these police there, all these supposed rioters, a brawl,
Right.
reports of kids with sticks hitting each other, which that seems like an excessive police response for kids with sticks.
Right.
You know?
Teenagers require a response of over 100 police cars.
And then there's the video of the supposed shadow people or alien or 9-foot
that video.
aliens, and
Yeah.
and it all feels to me contrived. Like, where are the videos and photos from inside the mall of these kids rioting, if that's really what happened? And
And it only seems to be this aerial helicopter view of this shadowy figure.
right.
You can't tell how high they are, how tall they are, where they're at. You just see this shadowy figure walking over near a storefront near glass windows.
Yeah,
And it's all illuminated by police lights flashing, and it's very disorienting, and you really can't get a good picture of anything. So
well, and the other thing that came out this last week was over in China. They've developed an actual cloaking, like invisibility cloak device. Have you seen that? So it's this like invisibility cloak that basically projects what's behind the wearer.
okay.
To make them blend in with the environment and look invisible. It's and when I see this
corporate shows can now have holographic projections.
yeah, I mean,
So they could have used holographic projections. to do
holographic
that.
projection or some or possibly this cloaking technology that is still kind of still being developed. It's not
Right.
perfected yet that we know
So
about.
somebody is actually walking in a suit
That's
projected
what I
to
think.
look like a 9-foot tall
That's what I think.
extraterrestrial.
One of the two,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it looks like a psyop.
Oh, absolutely.
There's not enough evidence to prove that the whole kids with sticks thing is real, but I mean, clearly something was going on that required a huge police presence. So what really happened?
it makes no sense.
Yeah. So, in other news, we've had along those lines. I mentioned all of the earthquakes and the tsunami warnings in Japan.
Yep.
There was concern of that, but Japan, we know that there's the Ring of Fire fault lines that go around the Pacific Rim. But what about the tsunami in California and the earthquakes
What about the earthquake in Washington, D.C. and Montreal?
Montreal, like that doesn't seem normal.
No, the last earthquake in Montreal was I think it said in the 70s.
Yeah.
There was a big recorded one. And there might be a fault line hundreds of miles away from Montreal, but it would be a small tremor, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm no expert on earthquakes. I'm not a seismologist, but
yeah. So, and then of course you've got all this strange weather going on in Florida right now.
yeah, we're right in the middle of some sort of winter weather event. It's like La Nina, only it's La Nina, not El Nino, is what they're saying, but it's literally the most insane front. And then up in the northern states, they're getting negative 20-degree temperatures in ice storms.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah, and it's literally a
That's
band
cold.
passing across the entire eastern seaboard.
Wow.
I
And
mean, look at the weather. It's insane.
well, what was really strange to me is, I mean, we've been getting these tornado warnings and weather alerts all day today, and
Yeah.
we knew about this last night when we were kind of planning putting the show together today.
Right.
But we've been getting these warnings blowing up on our phones all day, phone calls from the National
Yeah,
Weather Service and
alert
the local
Tampa's
alert Tampa. Yeah,
notifying me saying, please accept this message. There's severe weather, hurricane or tornado warnings. Excuse me.
but
Tornado
the weather
warnings in the area.
pattern coming up from the south and from the Gulf.
Right.
And just bringing it's just a really weird. I don't think I've seen anything like it.
Yeah, it's coming from the south, which is weird.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So, we have seen the weather modification stuff going on around the world. I mean, the record rainfall in Saudi Arabia of all places this year, where some weather modification stuff was going on. But this is some unprecedented stuff with the wind and
Yeah, I'm still getting more alerts.
yeah. Normally, I mean, Florida we get a lot of rain throughout the year, but not in January.
Well, yesterday, friends were telling me that school's canceled today
Yeah, and
because they can't have school buses on the roads with winds more than 50 miles per hour.
right.
It's like, why are we getting 50-mile-an-hour winds in January?
Well, and we're used to having hurricanes. Hurricane winds, when we have a really bad hurricane, are in excess of 120, 100.
right. Well, that's what Ian did.
yeah. And then all of a
Last
sudden
year,
we're
too.
getting all these warnings and panic
Yeah.
over 30 and what they said was going to be 30 and 40 mile an hour winds,
Right.
with maybe some stronger gusts. It's just it's weird. It's weird stuff. It doesn't
Right.
maybe it's just an anomaly or maybe there's more to it. But
Right.
you know,
Yeah. Well, more will be revealed, as they say.
as they say.
And, what do you think's causing this weather that's happening?
I wish I could tell you. I mean, like I said, we've
Maybe
seen
some advanced research project that people talk about?
Well, I mean, earlier you had mentioned the coronal mass ejections with the sun. I mean, you want
Okay.
to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so apparently 2024 is going to be a pretty heavy year for solar activity where the sun emits energy coming from its discharge of materials coming from its fission reaction. It's pretty interesting stuff, but it'll affect electronics, satellites, global communications. And usually we have solar energy happen
Yeah.
all the time, and the sun's always emitting a certain amount of energy. But with these coronal mass ejections, they're waves that come at the speed of light towards the Earth, and our atmosphere usually absorbs most of that energy and protects us from it. But when they're at a certain wavelength and so strong that it can cause problems, disrupt communication, satellites, all sorts of stuff, GPS. So
Well, and that's one of the things that we've seen before with some of the HARP stuff.
Yep.
Is supposedly they use the HARP equipment up in Alaska to energize the ionosphere, which wreaks havoc on weather patterns.
yeah.
But what is the potential with that? Is it just wind? Is it rain? Is it just some atmospheric stuff, or do they have the potential to affect, geological processes such as the earthquakes and things as well? How far does that really go?
I mean, going down the rabbit hole, I think the effects of HARP and all of those energy fields mixed with cloud seeding and different things being injected
We've seen a
into our
lot of cloud
atmosphere.
seeding this year too.
Yeah. I mean, all of that, it's not conspiracy theory. It's real.
Well, like
There's news stories that talk about it in the Midwest in Colorado.
Yeah, and shout out, Monkey Works. We're big fans. We watched their show.
Yeah.
They've really done some good work showing those weather modification flights going all over the country and
Yeah,
stuff.
all the data
And then you have all of the photos of the airplanes dropping pink dust out and glitter and all the things that they supposedly use. There's there's been those rumors of like the Bill Gates weather modification
it's real.
where they blow glitter and dust up into the
Yeah.
atmosphere to reflect light back off the planet.
Yeah.
So
that's
how
real.
far how far and deep does that go, right?
Well, and is that what we're experiencing now
And,
in all of our global weather patterns?
I mean, it may be, like I said, this is unprecedented uh, weather conditions we're seeing in Florida right now. This isn't something
interesting.
that I remember seeing in my lifetime. Not in the month of January. This is, typically when we get a south wind coming in with a storm, it's usually a hurricane or something.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting because there was an article I read about the sun seems brighter nowadays than what it used to be 30 years ago.
Yeah, but how do they measure that? I mean,
Well, I mean,
is it
instruments.
just a feeling, or is this?
I mean, I think some people it's just like visually brighter, it feels like to them, but then there's also maybe some instrumentation that registers
Right.
the brightness, the luminosity of the sun.
So one last thing, in other news, we've had this ongoing controversy with Disney and Snow White, Rachel Zegler. Now they have hired I believe, Filipino writer for Star Wars. What do you think of that? Like, what are your thoughts on this? I think the first thing she came out and said was that it's time for a woman to shape the story, and people seem to be really upset about this. Like, and should they be?
Well, like we talked about, Dean, people are going to start showing their votes and how they feel about Disney with their dollars.
Yeah,
And Disney's...
I think they already are.
Yeah, Disney's... Yeah, no, they are. Disney's starting to lose a lot of followers and people that were loyal to all the different franchises and property that they owned.
Yeah.
But the Star Wars, I mean, they have a long road ahead of them if that's the path they're going to take. And if they're going to go that woke route, which they already have.
Yeah, they have been for a while. I mean, this
Yeah.
isn't even anything new. This has been a long trend with
South Park called out Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and we all know how that goes, right?
And
Apparently,
Disney
the response
responded.
was not pleasant. Like, they were not
I'm
happy
sure
about
they
that.
lawyered up.
Yeah, of course they did. But this whole people are voting with their dollars, and that's what you should do. If you don't like something, don't contribute to it.
And people are going to lose. They're going to lose interest in those properties, in those storylines, in all the content that George Lucas worked so hard to create.
Right.
I don't think he ever intended on it being what it is now.
Well, the problem I have with the whole woke movement, or I don't know if you call it an agenda, but
No, it's an agenda.
yeah, I mean,
It's an agenda.
it's
You can
the
call it
woke-
an
Can we call
agenda.
it the woke cult? Like especially when,
It's to divide and conquer ultimately.
well, especially
And
when we're
Disney's part
talking
of it.
about, like, feminism and women's empowerment. They're doing more to they're doing more to damage the progress they made over the last half
Absolutely.
a century or more with the woke movement, because they've gone beyond like equality, and now it's just this like crusade to.
But it's the same thing with the LGBT.
Yeah,
Q
it
community.
undermines everything that,
Yeah.
that feminism and women have fought for so long, and people
Yeah.
and just the entire concept of equality in many ways.
Oh, it's just gaslighting that population.
Well, and we talk
and those demographics.
and you look at like the trans part of the woke cult,
Right.
And like me personally, I very much encourage people to live their life how they want to live, but the rest of us are not obligated to buy into your delusions of who you are and the world around
Absolutely.
you. And that's what people need to understand is, like, you're welcome to live your life how you want, be who you want to be, but you can't expect the entire world
to go along with
to
it.
go along with something that is factually
no.
false.
And that's what
factually not true.
ultimately
you know.
what you said today. You made a good point where when the left says the right is doing something, it's actually what the left is doing.
Yeah, I mean, they've been gaslighting for years, and they tell us exactly what.
Yeah,
they're-
they'll
what they're
blame
doing.
us. They're saying we're trying to make this world a communist world. We're trying to, turn America into a communist nation, and it's like, no, we're doing quite the opposite.
Or more recently, it's an attack on democracy.
Oh yeah.
The Trump's trying to ruin democracy and get rid of elections, but
Right.
They're the ones taking people off the ballot, and not
Right.
just Trump. Like they're the ones that are going after opposing politicians and trying to
Yep.
and removing the democratic choice of
Right.
the voters.
Right.
They're basically
They're trying to
saying,
take things off the ballot.
we don't want the voters to have that option. We don't want the voters to decide. We're going to decide for you in the name of democracy. That's not what democracy is about. But
No.
I mean, it's gaslighting, and they do it all the time. But if you listen to what the left accuses the right of doing, it almost always turns out to be what they in fact are perpetrating behind the scenes.
That's their plan.
And going back to the woke thing, it's like, somebody made a point to me the other day that, the man of the all these magazines are propping up trans men, like men, biological men as women of the year, biological men as the top woman in government.
Right.
Biological men as the best women's athletes.
Yeah.
And I think personally that it's insulting to women.
Oh, absolutely.
It undermines everything that women have worked for. It undermines everything women have achieved. There have been some brilliant and amazing women throughout history,
Right.
in whether it's in politics or science or business, you name it.
Right.
And all of their achievements are now being overshadowed by
Right.
men in dresses
Yeah.
who can't accept who they are or are
Right.
pretending to be something they're not. And it's ridiculous.
Right.
It's,
I agree.
I mean, I almost even equate it to, like BLM. You have this movement that at the core has a purpose and a reason, and people who want positive change for themselves, but then it gets hijacked by this political agenda driven entity, which takes over what those people originally set out to raise awareness about and create change for.
It goes back to dividing. They're trying to divide us. So if they can't, if we all agreed on everything, they wouldn't have a boogeyman.
Well, that's true. There's always got to be a boogeyman,
Right.
so somebody can be the hero, right?
Yeah, so there's got to be something to divide, and back when Trump was in office,
Yeah.
things were pretty calm.
Right. Well, he was
calling people out.
Yeah, I mean, that all goes along with the gaslighting. Is
Right.
if you can draw people's attention toward somebody else being the villain,
Yeah.
then you can, and what they do is they insert themselves into the story as the savior and the hero and the solution to the problem. But you have to create a problem first.
Yeah, you have to have a problem to figure out a solution.
Yeah.
And I mean, but I think that goes into many levels of the media, right?
Mm-hmm.
Communications companies,
Right.
corporations. I think that's a deeper discussion of why it's happening
Well, and
why brands are going along with it.
all during the Obama administration, we heard how many times did we hear them say, "Don't let a crisis go to waste. Don't never miss the opportunity to take advantage of a crisis."
Sure.
And I mean, I believe that there are people, there are actors within our government, and not even just government, but whether it's business leaders or celebrities, people of influence, let's call them,
Right.
who thrive from the chaos of creating these conflicts,
Right.
and then inserting themselves as the solution.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably pick 5 major topics happening in the world right now, and that's what they're created by.
Right. Yeah.
So I think the computer did something.
Uh-oh. We're not. The computer did do a thing.
What did it do? Is it still rolling?
Yeah, it's still rolling, but we lost our cameras.
Really?
Yeah.
It timed out?
I think that app closed again.
How did it close?
Yeah, that utility keeps closing, and we're losing our cameras.
Damn. Ah. Bear with us, technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Day one.
All right. And it's back.
Yeah, I mean, how long that was out.
Yeah, I think we more or less covered the things that I think we had planned on for today.
That's a good breaking point.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for watching. This is just our first video. We wanted to get one under our belts for the new year.
Hopefully we'll get better.
Yeah, we will. Things we can only go up from here. Okay, we can't. You can only improve.
Yeah, we'll go down.
So, yeah. But thank you for watching. Please like the video, subscribe.
Thanks
we
for
want to
joining
get
us.
these videos out there, and we'll catch you in the next one. Until then.